Making a decision about a case that you are committed to is hard. And when you are being told that maybe everything has been done in order to get you the outcome in this case possible, letting that case go is difficult. So now you're in a tough position of having to ask some crucial questions and you're not quite sure what to ask. Here's some things that you should think about if you're thinking about asking the question. If you're in a situation where you have a case that you have been told or has been reasonably have a reason to believe that maybe your chances of prevailing are not as successful, you're going to want to know, what are your chances of success? So that's a question you definitely want to ask the attorney if they're able to give you an indication of what are your chances. They can give you some roundabout possibility of the strengths and weaknesses of your case, so this way you can have information in terms of making an informed decision about whether you want to keep pursuing a case that may not necessarily have a great chance of success. So never try to get the attorney to, or ask the attorney to make the decision for you. At the end of the day, the only person that's in the best position to make a decision about your case is you. Sometimes my clients will say, so what would you do? All I can do is give you the information, and I can tell you what your chances are. I can also tell you the opportunities to prevail. I can tell you about the likelihood of failure. I can only do is arm you what's best for you, but you are the final decision maker, because the decision you make is the one you have to live with. That attorney doesn't have to live with it. If you're in a situation where you've got a case that's sitting in court and maybe you're not sure how long it's going to be there or in a proceeding and so forth, attorneys have done a variety of these cases for periods of time. They could probably give you a ballpark of the time so that you know if you've got a case that's tough, you have how much time you have. Don't expect them to automatically give you a specific time date unless there's specific time parameters that are outlined by law. But at least asking them how long this case is going to be will give you an idea of how much time you have in order to make a decision. Sometimes what happens is that people will ask, is there anything the attorney can do to help your case move faster? And sometimes the attorneys will say, this is what the law says you are permitted to do. Here are the circumstances where the courts will actually consider moving the case forward. Never ask your attorney to do something that's unethical or illegal in an effort to get you an outcome faster just because you want it faster at their expense. When you're finding yourself in a situation where you're trying to decide what you're going to do next in the future with regards to your case, having knowledge of as much options as possible is always going to be advantageous to you. Because if you know that your underlying case that you're dealing with right now is one that's going to be tough, if you know that you may have to give it up, you want to know, can you transition to something else? And you should not ask your attorney to keep fighting when you know there's no chance of winning. One of the things attorneys, especially those attorneys out there who take on cases that are tough, every now and then you'll get those cases where you're like, yeah, there's no chance. It's just because this is what the law says. This is what the facts have in your case. The two don't mesh. There's no wiggle room in here. There is no case. And sometimes what'll happen is that people will say, well, I want you to keep fighting, but I'm fighting nothing. So the reality is that you're asking for the rep to keep going, even though you yourself know there's nothing there. Because attorneys are not permitted to advance legal cases where they know there is no case. It's what we call bad faith. If you've come to that realization that you have no chance, you don't need to ask the attorney to keep fighting. But it's important that you recognize that if you have legal representation, they're there to guide you and educate you accordingly and let you know the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, and the ugly about your case. But sometimes the ugly reality is that your case has reached a point where there is no other legal course available for it. You can explore other legal options as much as possible in terms of talking to different attorneys who can point you in a direction, maybe if they see things a little differently. But at some particular point, if you've exhausted talking to a number of attorneys and they all come to the same conclusion, you're going to have to look at your case critically and ask yourself the question, are you ready to give up? And have you done everything possible to educate yourself accordingly about what you need to know in order to make that decision in the best interest for you?